Sid and Friends in the morning. 77 WABC.
When Syria falls and Assad runs to Putin and Russia, the first thing I say is, wow, that's great news. But then you hear people, including Bibi, say, well, slow down a second, because there is still some instability in the region that may not be great news. So you tell me, David Friedman, exactly what happened and what it means for Israel.
Well, look, I think maybe it's best to look at this in terms of winners and losers. So look, the losers here are the enemies of America and the enemies of Israel, Iran, Hezbollah, and Russia. Okay, they're clearly the losers. They were using Syria as a way station for to transport weapons into Lebanon to fight against Israel. The Iranians are the greatest state sponsors of terrorism anywhere in the world, and their most important asset was the control of Syria. So Iran is incredibly weak right now. Hezbollah is all but decapitated. Russia has shown that they can't protect their allies in Syria. So that's all good, right? When your enemies suffer and they become weaker, that's good.
There he is, Donald Trump's former ambassador to Israel, David Friedman. In this second administration, Trump has given that job to Mike Huckabee, but I'm sure David Friedman will do something because he's that good. He was a great ambassador. Let's not forget he was part of that historic Abraham Accord agreement, him, Kushner, Trump. And I love Huckabee. Friedman said on this show yesterday, they're probably better off with Mike because Friedman's Jewish. And they thought a lot of the moves and the philosophies and the ideologies that Friedman brought to the table were biased because he was Jewish. And now you get a guy who's not, and maybe he'll be a little more apt to please everybody. I don't know. I thought Friedman was as good as you can possibly be. And I love Mike. Mike was on this show, Huckabee, 2 weeks ago. But I don't know why Friedman's not back. But at any rate, Huckabee's got that job. Maybe Friedman gets something else. My guest, sitting right in front of me in studio, who is the CEO of JNS.org. I say all the time, you want information on Israel, on the war, what's going on. The only place to go is JNS.org. His name is Alex Traiman. He's been on this show pretty much every week since October 9th of 2023. And you, Alex, you're very good friends with David Friedman, too, aren't you?
Yeah, that's right.
You love that guy.
He was a great ambassador for Israel. He would have been my first choice because of the closeness of relationship and just the history, the record that he has. But I think Mike Huckabee is a great pick for a lot of different reasons, and I think that he's going to really galvanize support for Israel from the pro-Israel Christian base in the United States, which is much larger than the Jewish base.
Yes.
And we need to galvanize that because I do see that even on the right side of the political spectrum, there is a push to try to be more isolationist and to not understand just how important the alliance between the United States and Israel is. And I think Mike Huckabee is going to be a great ambassador of this important tie.
You talk about Judeo-Christian values, and that's what this country was built on, and that's what Mike Huckabee is all about. And for folks that don't really know much about Israel, like Jew haters, for example, they think it's all Jews. They're morons, But as you can tell everybody, you live there in Israel. There's plenty of Christians, plenty of Muslims, plenty of non-Jews that you guys live with every day.
Well, first of all, no two Jews are alike, as you know. Everybody thinks the religion is something different. Everybody practices it differently. And there's Christians, there's Muslims, there's Druze, there's Baha'i in Israel. You have everything in this country, and you have religious freedom for all.
Last time I saw you was Thursday, October 10th. And we did two shows from your great studios, Tuesday the 8th, Thursday the 10th. Friday the 11th, I had an off day, which was nice. And I ended up going to Efrat, meeting Judah Hanekman, our mutual friend. I went to shul with Judah.
On Yom Kippur.
And had my own little apartment overlooking Bethlehem. It was very nice. Went to shul. And then as soon as the services were over, We broke the fast, a little small bite back at Judah's house, and then we made the trip to Jerusalem, where I continued to break the fast with Bibi Netanyahu in a 6-day span, Alex. My last trip. I had Donald Trump on the show Monday, October 7th. I met one-on-one in the office of Bougie Herzog, the president of Israel, on that Thursday the 10th. I broke the fast with Bibi Netanyahu, and I saw you. How about that?
That's a pretty good lineup, Sid. But I think everybody understands the power of the platform you have here, and that you really rose to the occasion on September 7th to become a true defender and friend of the Jewish people in the state of Israel, and everybody appreciates that.
Thank you. I know you do. I appreciate that you're saying that. But for me, it was just, I was so angry, and we keep talking about this almost every time you're on, but it's worth mentioning because this creep Biden is on his way out, and I was so angry on that Monday the 9th, and people were looking forward to Joe Biden speaking to the country because he's pro-Israel and he met Golda Meir and all this nonsense. And I was adamant. I'm like, wait a second. You cannot be in bed with Iran and be pro-Israel at the same time. It's just not possible. Why can't everybody figure that out? Now, you figured it out pretty quickly, but there are still a ton of Jewish people who can't seem to figure it out. They still vote Democrat. They still say nice things about Joe Biden. I mean, I've got a friend named Val Greenberg. She was posting pictures yesterday of her and Kamala Harris. When are these people going to come around? What's it going to take, Alex Traiman?
Well, how people are going to vote, I don't know. I mean, Jews are amazing people and very diverse. They don't agree on very much, but that tension of the disagreement is kind of
a lot of Jews that are very stupid people. I'm sorry. Amazing is one thing. You vote Democrat, you're stupid. Well, sorry. That's when Donald Trump jumps into my body, if you notice that. But you're right. We're amazing people, and we've been through so much. We've endured so much. You would think we would do anything to make sure that we're not, taken off the map, and you vote for people who just don't seem to care.
I'll just say that I hope that, Donald Trump has a short memory about how a lot of Jews vote and that he doesn't do what he's going to do or not do what he's going to do for Israel on the basis of how Jews vote, because he has the opportunity to be on the right side of history, and history is not going to remember exactly how Jews voted in the 2024 elections. History will remember the things that Donald Trump does for the state of Israel, like moving the embassy to Jerusalem. He recognized the Israeli sovereignty over the Golan Heights, and people didn't understand why that had to happen. Now we see today why that needed to happen.
Yeah, that's a big story today, the Golan Heights, after what happened with Syria. Bibi actually talked about that specific region just a couple of days ago. So explain to the audience why the Golan Heights, once again, is in the conversation.
Well, the Golan Heights is the high ground over the north of Israel, and it borders with Syria. I mean, you can see into Kenitra from the Golan Heights. That's where Syria attacked Israel during the 1967 Six-Day War and in 1973 as well. Now Israel not only has sovereignty over the Golan Heights, is actually pushed beyond the Golan Heights and is now in this buffer zone between Israel and Syria that it hasn't been in since 1974. We've seen Israel really jump to fast action with the downfall of Bashar Assad, and really has very quickly opened up a new front in this war, and is wreaking havoc in Syria, taking out the Syrian army and air force and all of the weapons stores there, pretty much without any counterattack from anybody, making sure that Syria that might be in chaos is not a Syria that can attack the state of Israel.
Well, you heard David Friedman on this show yesterday, again, Trump's former ambassador to Israel, and he said, let's look at what happened in Syria this weekend. Syria falling, Assad running to Moscow with his friend Putin, making sure he has a safe place to go. But let's look at it as who lost here. And according to Friedman, Iran lost. That's a very, very big deal. Russia lost. Hezbollah lost. Do you agree with David Friedman that when you judge what happened in Syria over the weekend, that you kind of rate it against the winners versus the losers, and the losers mean wins for the United States and Israel?
Well, certainly if you think that Iran is the number one state sponsor of terror and the number one disruptor of the Middle East, it's a country that has destabilized Iraq, Syria, Lebanon, using those countries as a land bridge basically to attack Israel from southern Lebanon. They've destabilized Gaza. They've destabilized Yemen. Syria was an important linchpin in that axis that Iran was creating. So definitely Israel's harming of Hezbollah and Hamas, Israel's taking out of Iran's air defenses inside its country have led to the downfall of Assad in Syria here, and it's an opportunity, but it's also a danger, and you have to make sure that vacuum is not filled by Al Qaeda and ISIS and all other bad actors that also want to see the destruction of the state of Israel.
I mean, the guy that took over for Assad has history with Al Qaeda. We know that. And yes, there's been a lot of talk about the resurgence of ISIS. The United States spent the last couple of days bombing ISIS spots, over 80, I believe, ISIS spots, which means they're out there somewhere. So I guess that dangerous possibility really does exist.
Well, that's why Israel has really jumped into action very, very quickly to, first of all, we can kind of hope everybody wins in Syria, right? Everybody can attack each other, weaken each other, but make sure that nobody gets their hands on weapons of mass destruction. Remember, there's chemical weapons inside Syria. Bashar Assad used them during the civil war.
Against his own people.
Syria had an air force. Syria had Russian air defenses that could be used to shoot down Israeli airplanes that need freedom of operation in that area. Israel's carried out over 250 airstrikes in Syria just in the last 48 hours alone.
Wow. I want to get to this hostage story because it broke a couple of days ago that Hamas now providing, is it Israel? Is it the United States? I'm not even sure, with the names of the hostages that are still alive and their medical conditions as well. And, of course, for most people, they think that is the beginning of some type of huge deal that will bring the hostages back. What is the latest on that story?
Well, I would have thought that Israel was very close to a deal with Hamas prior to the breakout of this Syrian uprising. This has kind of created a distraction, I think, for Israel for certain. But I think that Israel's really never been closer in the last several months to some kind of hostage release deal. That's in part because President Trump came in and said if the hostages are not released by January 20th, there's going to be all hell to pay.
So you really believe then, because there are folks that say you can't intimidate Hamas. Are you serious? But you believe that Trump did what he set out to do, which was intimidate Hamas.
Well, that you have to use all the leverage that you have. Right. So, we saw as soon as Trump was elected, what happened. The Hamas leadership in Qatar was immediately expelled from Qatar, right? The Biden administration could have told Qatar on day one, you're housing Hamas. Well, you have a lot to lose if you keep holding them there. But they said, no, Qatar, these are the mediators, or, they're important. And Hamas just dragged this out. The second Trump gets elected, the Hamas leadership is now running to Turkey, and the Gazan people have a lot to lose, if Trump's not happy, right? The Biden administration has been demanding that Israel bring tons and tons and tons of humanitarian aid into the Gaza Strip. Meanwhile, the UN and everybody else saying that's not happening. We know it's happening. Trump could say, hey, listen, you guys want humanitarian aid? Give back the hostages. I mean, there could be a siege on Gaza. They could say to Israel, why don't you take over the Gaza Strip? There's a lot for the Gazan people to lose if they don't return the hostages.
So the ceasefire in Gaza may happen. The hostages, that may happen. We're also talking about a ceasefire in the north, but folks also believe part of the reason for that is that, as you heard David Friedman say, Hezbollah, for the most part, has been decapitated. They're done. They're down to, very little weaponry at this point. Israel literally beat the shizzle out of Hezbollah. So what do you need a ceasefire at this point? I mean, I know they're still sending rockets over, but they're down to basically nothing, right?
Well, we'll see if a ceasefire in Lebanon holds. I think that Donald Trump may tell Prime Minister Netanyahu, go ahead, finish the job, finish it fast.
That's what I want.
And the same.
Is that what you want?
You want a situation where you haven't altered the paradigm. You want a situation where you've completely changed the paradigm to the extent that there's not going to be another war between Israel and any of these terror proxies for the next several decades, if not permanently. If you do a ceasefire before Hezbollah is completely eliminated, you're basically guaranteeing that they're going to try to rebuild their infrastructure either with the backing of Turkey or with some other player.
See, that's the bad guy now. Erdogan, Turkey. Iran right now has been weakened dramatically, not where they were when Trump was in office, but certainly weakened much more than they were since Biden took office. But Turkey becomes the big dangerous player.
The thing is that the second one power and especially a bad power, but also a good power, the second one power becomes weakened and is removed from the picture, that creates a vacuum. And then every other power player in the region is trying to fill that vacuum. And I think Israel's also trying to fill that vacuum, right? That's because they understand that if they don't, Erdogan, ISIS, Al-Qaeda,
oh boy,
China for that matter, all could try to become power players in the area.
So on the way out, this is our dear friend Alex Traiman, who's on this show all the time. He's on from Jerusalem, he's on from New York. It doesn't matter. We love Alex and JNS.org. You look at the next couple of months, I'll be back in Israel, it looks like, for a third time this April for Israel Independence Day. Not long after that, around Memorial Day here in the United States, you guys will celebrate Jerusalem Day. And I remember both of those holidays last year. You were on, others were on. And even though those were celebratory days and people did hit the streets in Israel and have fun, it was pretty solemn. You guys were not even a year removed from that October 7th day, and it was rough. I feel like this year it's different. And again, I know I'm biased towards Donald Trump, but I really feel like the day that he won, there was a huge sigh of relief, not just here in the United States, but even you folks where you won. You talked about how day one, things changed once he won that election. Do you feel like the next couple of months in Israel are going to be different?
I think the next couple of months present an unbelievable opportunity for the state of Israel. But it's an opportunity. It hasn't been accomplished yet. There's a lot of work to do to make sure that this region gets transformed. I think that Donald Trump and his team understand it. They understand what needs to get done. I think Prime Minister of Israel, one of the greatest leaders in the free world today, he understands it. But it's still going to take a lot of work, and it's a war, which means that there can be a lot of unintended bad incidents and things like that. It's messy, but if we do this right in these next few months, I think it's going to be wonderful for the United States. It's going to be wonderful for the state of Israel. It's going to be good for world peace.
Awesome. So you're here raising money for JNS.org, right?
Well, JNS is a 501c3 reader-supported news organization, and thank God we have a lot of readers that understand, just how bad. You talk about Jews voting the wrong way. Jewish media, most of it is attacking the government, attacking the Prime Minister of Israel on a daily basis.
I know. They are basically what MSNBC does to Donald Trump, the left media in Israel does to Bibi.
Right, including a lot of the English language media. And I think that JNS is doing something different. It's reporting on Israel from the point of view of most Israeli voters, from the point of view of the government of Israel, and from the point of view of what I believe is the majority of Americans that actually support the state of Israel.
So when we get back in April, are you going to be upstairs? You've got these new, beautiful palatial offices coming.
We have a new studio, a new television studio, should be ready in about 2 weeks.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So we will be in the new studios when we come back.
Yeah, that's right. And we're also planning our first policy conference right around the time you're coming. So, we hope to see you on the stage there.
There in Israel.
Yeah.
That's going to be a huge deal.
Yes.
So my cousin will be there, Norm Coleman. He loves JNS.org. He actually was one of the first people to tell me about you guys. He reads it every morning, whether he's in Minnesota, Washington, D.C., or Naples, Florida. Norm Coleman wakes up and reads JNS.org.
Amazing. Yeah, we have just a really growing readership in terms of people, but also in terms of influencers, senators, ministers of governments, prime ministers, presidents, reading JNS, and these articles do affect policy outcomes. And so if you like what we're doing, sign on to the newsletter. If you really like what we're doing, make a donation. We really appreciate it.
JNS.org, folks. There he is, the CEO, one of my dearest friends, just a brilliant and wonderful guy, Alex Traiman. Great seeing you this morning.
Thanks so much for having me.
All right, pal. Good to see Alex. That's my guy right there. Well, we'll take a short break. We'll come back with hour number 2. It's a big hour. Noam's got the news, of course. Curtis Lee. Well, Curtis has a whole bunch of information on this shooter that they've got in custody now, Luigi Mangione, who killed the United Healthcare CEO. Curtis will talk about that. And then victorious attorney Thomas Kniff, his client Daniel Penny, found not guilty yesterday. Sliwa and Kniff coming up next hour on Sid and Friends in the Morning.
Take this declaration of war. It's time to turn your daydream into your dream job. Wix gives you the power to turn your passion into a moneymaker with a website that fits your unique vision and drives you towards your goals. Let your ideas flow with AI tools that guide you, but give you full control and flexibility. Manage your business from one dashboard and keep it growing with built-in marketing features. Get everything you need to turn your part-time passion into a full-time business. Go to Wix.com.